Hello and welcome to number 31 Hatton Garden. This is Patrick Wyatt.
And this is Geoffrey Murray.
So we were going to talk about various things relating to this glorious jewellery profession that we find ourselves in. The first thing we must talk about at the moment is the gold price. A historic high.
Yeah.
We've had several historic highs over the last few weeks and
almost every other day there's an announcement, gold's hit an all-time high.
Yeah. And so this has implications on jewellery, and first of all, I guess, is it's a good time to scrap gold. You have old pieces to liberate and release their value. Now's a good time to do it.
Absolutely. I've got a client that I mentioned to you yesterday who had a collection of Krugerrands, and every so often she keeps horses and their vet bills are very expensive. So she releases a few gold coins and she contacts me and says, is this a good time? I'll look at the gold price, check the dollar price, and then I'll say to hold off for a while, or yes, now's a good time. And she's got 2 left and she's going to drop them off to me because it's a no-brainer with the uncertainty around the world, and particularly on the other side of the Atlantic. It's pushing people to buy gold, which has always been a safe haven, of course, when currencies are under pressure. Absolutely, and so many people this year have come with gold, and almost on every occasion they're astounded by the return. And I always say, how much do you think you've got? Oh, I don't know, go on, have a guess. And I say, £300-400. I think £1,600, literally. But those little chains, half a earring in the jewellery box and never doing anything with it, now's the time.
Yeah. And added into that is that the pound is currently strong against the dollar, and as the gold price is in dollars, that adds to the strength of the gold price. Yeah,
it's almost 10% up on what it was not that long ago. That's a big difference, and it's a big difference in buying precious metal, even though gold is high, but because all these commodities are sold in with the dollar, it's good that the pound is strong, relatively strong.
Yeah, it does. It makes a difference, and also a good time. One way is to scrap the gold and release cash, and that's good.
Yeah.
But also to reuse gold into melt it down and make it into a new piece. Though one thing that people often don't realise is that if you have lots of bits and bobs of gold, you can often, like a chain, each link in a chain will have been soldered. So if you melt that all down, sometimes that's not the best gold to work with. You can make a simple shape, a wedding ring, or a simple shape that you can adorn. I made a nice teardrop. My mum, actually, we got my dad's wedding ring, and we melted it down into a little tear, and then set little diamonds into it.
Oh, beautiful!
So it's a lovely piece, but that's quite possible to do with gold. But if you have too many solder joints in there and old settings, links of a chain, the gold is
brittle,
porous and brittle.
It cracks when the mounter tries to shape it into something.
So there's some limitations, but
there are some. As long as it's relatively clean gold, it can be used. And I've got an old neighbour, Ben, who's fantastic with his hands, a carpenter. He's building a house for his parents on the south coast. He can turn his hand to anything, and he started creating wax models for jewellery. And he's done this sort of rather rustic twig-like ring, and he's given me the gold, and it's good clean gold, and we're going to cast that very gold and to make him a ring, and he's going to fettle it into the final shape, which is great.
Yeah, there's something meaningful about the gold being the same gold being used and passed on into the next piece.
Yes, people. If it's of sentimental value, particularly, like your father's wedding band, and they say, can you use this to make a new piece? And I know a lot of jewellers will say, yeah, no problem at all, and they'll just scrap
Melt
it
it down
and
use
use
fresh
fresh.
metal, yeah.
And I think it's really important to be honest and say, look, on this occasion, it's probably not going to work for these reasons, rather than pull the wool over their eyes. And
Yeah, and there's some skill in how you incorporate it, isn't it? It may be that you melt down a piece of gold and you incorporate it in its own section in a piece at the back of the band, or as an inlay or something, rather than melting into the whole, where it can cause complications. But
it's interesting with gold price just going ballistic, and you look at the gold price chart over 5 years and you think, if I bought a whole load of gold 3 years ago, but no one ever buys at the bottom and sells at the top.
Well, over years I've thought, if I just bought every month, if I just went and got and put aside myself a little nugget of gold, then that would have been a really great investment to have done.
And there are cultures that do that in the Middle East, in India, subcontinent. It's a tradition. But
So you buy little pieces at a time.
absolutely, and I knew a chap. He was from Pakistani heritage, and he would collect gold coins when he had a bit of spare cash. Now, I don't know how many he's got or he had, but he's sitting pretty now, and it's always for a rainy day. It's not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea.
As long as you hide it well and remember, and you tell one trusted person where it is if something happens.
Yeah.
Then
That's the downside of a physical. Physical asset.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're talking about gold, but when going back through the mists of time to when I started in Hatton Garden, platinum wasn't used much at all. It was so expensive. But it was white gold, which was created because platinum was just too expensive.
Yeah, the more affordable version of it.
Absolutely, but of course there's no such thing as white gold as such. It doesn't exist. It's silver metals mixed in as alloys to make it look silvery, but it always has to be rhodium plated because it's normally a bit dull and a bit grey. But platinum, I remember thinking, well, it was probably about 3 times more expensive than 18 karat gold. Now, platinum is cheaper than gold. It's just bonkers. So, I'm sure the same for you. I would hardly ever recommend white gold at the moment. Because
there's no point in not using platinum.
No.
It's homogeneous. It doesn't change colour. The alloys put into gold that almost trying to hide the yellowness of the gold.
That's exactly so.
So if you're trying to achieve a white metal, then you may as well use platinum the cost is less now than 18 carats certainly.
It's interesting seeing these trends because palladium, when I started, it
wasn't probably even a precious metal used so much.
Well, no, it was another alternative to platinum, and it was harder than silver, harder wearing, but it was tuppence a gram, And I remember having one of these sort of Victorian net purses, these sort of chain link purses, which was incredible, but no one would buy it, and so I was told to scrap it by my boss. And we got a few quid for it.
And it was made in palladium.
Made in palladium. Now you've been well into 4 figures, and I think we've probably got about £12 for this beautiful purse.
Because I remember there was a time when I first started 20 years ago, I don't recall there being palladium wedding rings. I don't recall making palladium wedding rings. Then there was a time that they came in, I think after platinum jumped. I can't remember what that date was or what the reason was, but there was a time when platinum jumped. So palladium came in as this good alternative metal. And then palladium skyrocketed suddenly, 7, 8 years ago? And for various reasons, I think perhaps to do with the supply, the mining, but also its use in catalytic converters industrial process. I never fully understood the reason for the jump, but
No.
boy did it rock it.
Absolutely.
And
now,
now you don't make them anymore.
yeah, absolutely. And platinum is pretty stable. If you look at the price chart of platinum over recent years, and it's just like that. Whereas with gold and gold's like that, and palladium's like that.
It's interesting. I wonder why people don't speculate in platinum.
Yeah.
Because it has other uses as well. So it's not. I don't know if gold has more industrial uses than platinum or not, but I'm sure it has uses, and I wonder why people don't speculate in it.
I know, it's strange, and it's rarer.
Yeah.
Much rarer than gold.
Yeah.
Denser.
Yeah, it takes more heat. It must be more difficult to sort of mine because
It's more difficult to mine apparently, and it's more difficult to smelt at that higher temperature. It costs more.
Yeah.
So you can have gold which is more expensive than platinum. So you say to clients, go for platinum and white gold. It's an absolute no-brainer. It's like saying you have a brand new Aston Martin or with respect to second-hand, less expensive car, should you say. Gold is more expensive than platinum, but because platinum is denser, it can sort of even out in price.
Yeah, so there's more of it.
There's more of it
in the actual physical volume of the piece you're making.
Yeah, so when you see these films and someone's carrying a gold bar like that, if it was platinum, it would be same volume.
Have you ever held one of those ingots, a proper?
No, sadly not.
I held one, and not a full one like that. It was probably about a third of the size of.
Oh yeah.
My God, it is slightly mind-boggling when you actually feel the physicality of the material. And I think that's something that something we sort of forget about, or feeds into this part of this conversation that we have around talking about lab diamonds and natural diamonds, and people say, well, it's the same, isn't it? But in one sense, yes. But I think in that you can lose the quality of the actual material itself. Like gold has a quality to it, platinum has a quality, the physicality of the material, which you sense more with gold and platinum. If you see a big amount of it,
yes,
you feel its weight.
Yes.
That's why I like 22 carat as well, because it's you feel its weight, sense its weight.
Yes, you can hold a ring without looking at the hallmark, without touching it, and say, yeah, it's 9 carat or 18 carat or 22 carat. And also by the colour. 22 carat, particularly over a period of time, it's got that lovely patina or patina. It's just so rich. It's like a lovely old Sauterne wine, golden honey.
Yeah, like liquid gold. Yeah.
What I'd say to people at the moment, just look in your jewellery collection. Do you wear this piece of jewellery, or is it broken, or is it missing an earring? Now's the time. Where it's unlikely to get a lot better than it currently is, so it's a very good time to consider scrapping some gold.
Yeah, though of course, who knows? Maybe
never
5 years time it carry on going up. You just don't know, because
if we knew, we'd be very, very rich.
Yeah.
Last time we spoke about favourite gem we'd ever had, and you spoke about a beautiful old cut.
The old pear-shaped old cut, yeah.
Yeah, and I mentioned this gorgeous emerald, the only one that sort of I think I wish we'd held on to it. But what about favourite gem from our current stock?
Yeah.
And it's quite a...
We've got quite a broad stock, some interesting pieces, unusual gems in there.
Yeah.
I have a clear favourite, I think.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know if it's a clear favourite, but the one that popped to mind as being the one, which is this gorgeous, just over 4 carat cushion cut sapphire, and it's near perfect sapphire colour. What was amazing is that we had another one, almost an identical pair already in our stock, and very rarely do two stones match up
from
nicely.
Separate sources.
Different sources. It's almost perfect colour from Sri Lanka. And what was amazing about it is that we had another one in stock, almost identical.
Yeah.
We'd say very similar material. So although the stone is slightly different, I think one is 40 points or so more than the other. Very similar shape and very similar quality of blue to them. You know?
It's like twins separated at birth, and they've finally been reunited.
Yeah.
It is exciting. I mean, looking at them, they could come from the same mine,
They
from
may
the
well.
same mountain, somewhere in Sri Lanka.
That's why jewellers are very reticent to separate pairs. You know?
Yes.
You may have a parcel of stones, but if you have two individuals amongst the parcel which speak to each other and are a pair, that they almost both become more valuable
Absolutely.
because they have each other. And so jewellers are very reticent to take one.
Yeah, I can see why you chose it.
Yeah, I think it's currently our finest coloured gem.
I think it is.
You know,
our finest
it's
colour.
currently the king of the crop. How about you?
Mine is on the other end of the scale. I mean, it's like, how can I choose a favourite from all my favourites? Yeah, but it was a little suite of blue zircons that I bought in Santa Fe, in New Mexico, in the States, some years back. And when I started, all those years back in this profession, blue zircons were considered, do I keep it or do I throw it in the bin? And they were often very hazy. It was like someone had put a drop of milk in there and swirled it around. You couldn't.
Good quality.
No, they weren't good. They were very cheap indeed. And people, from an old piece, people would often take them out and put in a different gemstone. These are totally different. They're just full of vibrancy and life, and they're just shouting fun, 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 let's party.
Yeah.
So you've got two oval cushions and one larger squarish cushion, but they are a set, a suite. And, you know, there's earrings and a pendant there, or earrings and a ring. They're just saying, let's go and have a party together.
When you have amazing quality semi-precious, you know, we have this distinction between precious gems, which sapphire is, and semi-precious, which zircon is. But when they're the finest quality material, semi-precious, it sort of breaks down. It becomes a bit meaningless whether it's precious or not, because it's just such a fine exemplar of that material. It's still a material of nature, and it reflects a lot of light, and it's got this amazing saturated color, which you only get from, you know, there's some crossover in colors of gemstones, but certain, you know, if you have the finest example of a given gemstone, you only get that quality of color from that gemstone. A zircon it's got a brightness for me, a sort of frostiness in its color. You don't get that quality of light from any other gem. You know?
And I wouldn't be at all upset if we just all get away with this precious gemstone, semi-precious gemstone. They're all precious.
Yeah.
You know, who decides that these four of ruby, diamond, emerald and sapphire are a cut above all the others who are only half precious? It's daft, really.
Yeah, I do have a theory about that. I think a little bit is in, I think it's no mistake that the precious ones are, well, diamond is white and just reflects the most light. But ruby, sapphire and emerald are kind of green, red, blue. Not in that order. But, and they're like the, well, I suppose the primary colours are yellow, red and blue. But blue is like the sky and the ocean. Green is like foliage. And red is something pure, red, fire. They're almost elemental, whereas a topaz it's a kind of blue. It's sort of a watery blue, but it's somehow not it's not like the ultimate blue like sapphire is, you know? I wonder if there's
maybe it is that. I thought it might just be marketing to push your price up. I could be wrong.
You know, it's about narratives, isn't it? That is a narrative. Like marketing is a sort of narrative tool, and marketing has had an effect on the way we perceive these gems, but trying to roll back to, okay, if you could wipe out all marketing, wipe out all narrative, and we were put fresh in our current situation in life, and you put these gems in front of us, how do we react to them again? And I suspect that somehow the blue of topaz wouldn't quite land for people as the blue of sapphire would.
These are. I think that's right. It's just that these are the best example. I think they're the best zircons. So the best example that I've ever seen of them of this type. Over 36 years, and that's something. And they're just different.
Yeah.
I like their difference, and
they've got character.
They've got
particularly the central one is deep and it's.
Yeah, you'd expect to go into a sort of kiddie, to go into a sweet shop and look for those fake almost looking colour, the most bright, and this is what you probably pick out.
Yeah, we think about gems as being valuable, which they are, but then we also. In doing that, the thing about a gem which is nice is that you get to wear it as well. It's something that's valuable and shows it sort of demonstrates its value, doesn't it, by the light that it reflects and the colour it gives.
Yeah.
And we think of jewellery as being valuable and, like an investment, and it's a container for wealth. And it's one that you can wear for many years, but that also and gives of its value constantly as it's being worn, as opposed to, I don't know, if you were to buy a nice car, and as soon as you drive it off the forecourt, it starts going down in value. Yeah. By the time you've done 100,000 miles, it's a fraction of its value. Yeah. Whereas a jewel you can wear all your life, and it still contains value.
Yeah, absolutely. And we spoke before about that value at the end of someone's life can be passed on to someone else to wear. Or, if it's not their style, it can be broken up and used in a different form. So that value continues. I
was talking to a friend recently who works in the sort of tech world in the city. Silicon Roundabout is the sort of version of that whole
Silicon Roundabout.
That's what they call it.
Is that right?
Old Street Roundabout. Silicon Roundabout.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And he was saying in that world, it's very out of California has come the sort of super dressed down vibe where the more natty your Bermuda shorts and your flip flops are, the more important you are in the company. And there's a bit of a trend amongst these guys to be super dressed down, but then have an absolutely world class watch on at the same time, and a watch that might be made by one of these Swiss independent watchmakers who make 20 watches a year, and each one costs £150,000.
Yeah, or more, and the cost of a house.
And they're beautiful things. If you look at some of them, they're incredibly classy and beautifully designed. Some of them more crass than others. Some of them are all bells and whistles. I'm not a big fan of the ones that look like they've got the big chronographs. But
there has been that trend. Well, for maybe 20 years, 15, 20 years of watches being huge for some people. I very old,
on brown watch strap there you've got.
Oh, brown orange. Yeah. And but there is something showy about it. This thing, the status look, and of course, it can be a source of crime. Well, it is a source of crime. It's the expensive watches.
In London now it's a big problem. I watched a programme the other night about these robberies that happen in and around Mayfair. Kids on scooters, and they scope you out. They see you in a nice restaurant, and they're very good at their eyes. Amazing. They spot a Rolex from 100 yards, and they'll follow you, and then they'll ride up the pavement, grab you, and grab the watch off your wrist. So. To anyone with a valuable watch in and around central London, where it feels very safe, it's one has to be careful.
Wear your sleeve down, and footballers get targeted. Professional footballers, their homes being ransacked.
Haven't some of those robberies happened when they're playing a big game?
Yes.
And they know, well, he's going to be at the game.
Yeah,
So.
and his wife or girlfriend and the kiddies are going to be in the stands watching.
Yeah. In the Wags box.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, isn't it, that crossover between status and jewellery? Because I think in this country, particularly in this market, there's less of jewellery as status, and in a way it's almost the inverse. Like, people will be more concerned about being ostentatious
Absolutely.
rather than being, than something not looking enough.
Yeah, and there are other parts of the world where that is not the case, where, for example, the setting of gemstones here are generally set low. Less is more. But in say in the States, for example, you get these settings where the diamond this diamond is sticking right up there, and often the diamond quality is a bit so-so.
Yeah, there's more of a market in the States for larger, not quite such high quality diamonds.
Yeah, because they're looking for the show.
Yeah.
And generally, people here, they want a finer quality and set simply.
Yeah, more classic, understated. Yeah.
Quietly brilliant.
Quietly brilliant.
Like us.
Yeah, not quite so. Yeah.
And modest. So yes, it and I think that applies also to Europe, that they don't go for ostentatious jewellery. Obviously, it's a generalisation.
Yeah, I think maybe in Europe the jewellery is more. It does tend to be more larger and more expressive, but I think that's what it is. It's more expressive and more stylish and more kind of flair. But that's where it's coming from, to be bigger, to be bolder. It's rather than just this big rock.
I think that's a good point. Expression, and there is a certain amount of flair in continental Europe, which we could do with.
Well, I think you're doing, making a good showing for this side of the channel with your shirt and jumper combination.
Well, it's partly more to encourage the sun to come out and stay a bit longer than it has been recently.
Well, it actually looks like
it's a lovely day. Yesterday was not like that. But there we go. So long may we remain a country where we put the quality that's comes first and foremost over status.
Well, and I think we're in the epicenter of it here in Hatton Garden, aren't we? Because in the Victorian period, this was probably the preeminent or the leading jewellery making centre in the world, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
It was the styles of Victorian jewellery that were coming out of here, and then probably by the time you get into Edwardian, the States was bigger. New York and Tiffany's were happening.
Yes, when it started to change.
Yeah, but in the Victorian times, so much was defined by the Victorian taste.
Yes, I mean in so many areas, but that Victorian jewellery and Georgian and the Edwardian Art Deco out of this country is so popular, valued around the world, and so. We've lost so much of our original Victorian and antique and period jewellery overseas. It's because they love it in America, they love it in Europe, they love it in Japan, Australia and New Zealand and so on. And so sort of it's gone out, which,
disperses naturally. Yeah.
It's appreciated.
Yeah. I was speaking to a very fine mounter here the other day. And we were talking about how knowledge of, the knowledge of how to make jewellery passes down through the generations of craftsmen. And for him, the way he was talking about making is a lot about, a bit like solving problems. You've got a puzzle, a designer comes, so we go to a mounter and say, right, we've got this gemstone, we want to make this arrangement, it's going to be a necklace or a ring, and we want this to make this work. And he helps to solve the problems, to fit the gemstones together, to make it wearable, etc., etc. And in doing that, you encounter lots of sort of design problems, and your technical ability to solve those problems is part of what makes a great mounter.
Yeah.
And he was saying that you don't necessarily know where the knowledge to fix a certain problem comes from. So you may have learned it from your master, but he may have learned it from his master, and he may have learned it from his master. So, you know, how to make a certain type of gallery or certain claw arrangement, how to solve that problem may have come from 200 years ago, but you don't know. Because all you know is that your master taught it to you and you're an apprentice. So you saw the other craftsmen do it like that.
And in a way, that's, I guess, all you need to know. But it's nice also to remember that this is some sort of seamless tradition that somehow continues. And it's a wonderful thing. It should be, almost all traditions should be celebrated for the nature that they're still going for a good reason. And
a good reason to have jewellery made in the traditional way in Hatton Garden, handmade. CAD is a very useful tool, but it's good to also still have things made the traditional ways to keep those skills alive, that hand making.
And we both spent countless hours in workshops, and you see setters and engravers and enamelers and all the rest of it. But watching a mounter at work and all their attention focused on this tiny one point, and they're looking at their bench, it's so gratifying to see. And there's a lump of metal and it's grey or it's black and it's being torched to make it malleable, and then you know that at the end of that process it's going to be a stunning piece of jewellery. So the handmade jewellery, I think, is what makes Hatton Garden really great, because we can't...
It's special as well.
Very special, and especially because we can't compete with mass-produced jewellery coming out of the Far East, for example. Very cheap labour costs and not always best quality, but we can compete with design, with build quality, and just making really fine handmade pieces.
A couple of days ago I had a message from a good old client who has a princess cut that he'd like to trade in, and it got me thinking about cuts of stone or styles that have had their time in the sun and have come and gone. And versus styles that have sort of stayed around. And I think princess cuts were one of them. It was when I first started, around the time or shortly after, and I remember David Beckham came out, 2 princess cut, 1 characters, one on either lobe. And I think that kind of was the beginning of the end for princess cuts.
Sounds the death knell.
But it's interesting how princess cuts have been around for a while before, and presumably they were invented in the 20th century, but came to form more in the 50s or 60s.
I don't know. I think they maybe even slightly later. Because they're said to be the square equivalent of the modern round bream cutting with 57 fat. It's supposed to give a similar light, but it gives a very different quality to the roundness of the round diamond or the cushion diamond or whatever.
I think princess cuts do very well in a channel set where you have a line of them, edge to edge. They do very well like that. But somehow the square shape and the diamond, it's not so easy. It doesn't work quite so well.
It doesn't work. It often doesn't work well. That's a good example of in an eternity ring. It's great. It's fantastic. Or if you have maybe a tennis bracelet.
Work well in tennis, it's a similar idea, isn't it? Where they're edge to edge and you have a nice line.
But not in many other things that come to mind.
I think it's to do with the shape. It's 4 corners, isn't it? It's a strong shape. And if you like the shape and you kind of vibe with the shape, it works. It's not that it doesn't work, it's just strong. The round is more harmonious shape, whereas
Yeah.
the square is more edgy, isn't it?
It's because it's those sharp points of the corner. You take the corners off, and then you've got Radiant, Asher, as a square emerald cut, and it's aesthetically, for most people, they are more pleasing than a princess cut.
Yeah. I suppose what happens is that the claw then sits within the corner that's cut off, so
Yeah.
it completes the square.
Exactly so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.